Welcome to Jack Campbell Stadium on the campus of South Brunswick High School in Bowling Spring Lakes for your FOCUS Broadband TV high school football game of the week. Back in BSL for the second consecutive week for tonight's matchup featuring the visitors from St. Paul's High School. The Bulldogs have made the trek from Robeson County to take on the host South Brunswick Cougars. For those of you who were not with us last week, South Brunswick was really, Jay, a play in the fourth quarter period from moving to 2-0 on the young season. Suffered a 48-44 defeat at the hands of South Columbus in a game that these Cougars led 44-12 late in the third quarter. So my question to my color analyst, as he always is up here in the booth, Mr. Jay Combs, is, Jay, how do you recover from that if you're Rocky Lewis and the South Brunswick Cougars as you prepare to take on the Bulldogs of St. Paul's tonight?
Sam, that's probably the question of the night with respect to what is South, how are they going to respond this week, because they literally had the wind, air, everything else in the world knocked out of them in that setback last week. One thing I would say is simply this: if there's any of the, and there's lots of great coaches in the area, but I think Rocky Lewis is about as good as any of them. And if there's one guy that can maybe make chicken soup out of chicken feathers with a loss like that, is probably Coach Lewis. And I'm sure all week he has preached to them, look, last week was last week, this week is this week, right? Learn to improve on those areas where we didn't come up as strongly as we could have, particularly in that second half, particularly in that fourth quarter. The plays that come back to haunt me are those two almost consecutive kickoffs that they lost the ball on both times, and of course South Columbus went on to score as they scored 30 points in the fourth quarter for that comeback victory. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see the first maybe 5 minutes tonight what South Brunswick team is going to show up.
And, Jay, making matters more difficult for the Cougars is the loss of junior linebacker Jack Early, who is still the area's leading tackler through 2 weeks. He is out for the season with a knee injury.
Yeah, and shame on us last week. Early got hurt on a kickoff and went out, and we missed it. And I can't help but think that his lack of being there in the second half led to some of those defensive deficiencies that we saw. But, yeah, Jack's out the rest of the year, so they're going to have to plug for him. And they're going to have to – it'll be interesting to see just like I said, the first few minutes of this game, and they're going to be on defense, and that's where they can score the ball, but they have been having a hard time all year keeping the other team out of the end zone.
St. Paul's falls on the opening kickoff at its own 36-yard line, where the Bulldogs will take over 1st and 10. And, Jay, this is the first St. Paul's football game I've ever done, and it's a place that conjures up some wonderful childhood memories. I
bet it does. Your dad was a coach there, and golly day, you were really young when Yogi was over there leading the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I was about 15 months old when he coached in his first game as head coach at St. Paul's. St. Paul's hands it off on first down. Maybe picked up a half yard out to about almost the 37. That'll set up a 2nd and 9. So far, so good through one play for this South Brunswick defense. Jay, the quarterback for St. Paul's, a young man, number 13, Theo Setzer, and that last name's a familiar one.
Because his dad is the coach, Mike Setzer, and Setzer showing some athleticism there, getting around the right side.
Yeah, Jay, speaking of making chicken soup out of chicken feathers, Setzer did there. Looked like South Brunswick had it pretty well defended. It was his athleticism and his athleticism alone that picked up about 6 yards for the Bulldogs, setting up a 3rd and 3 from the 43-yard line. The Dogs need the 46 for a first down.
Setzer was 12 for 24 through the air last week, 77 yards and an interception.
Boy, he is really, really close, Jay. Really close to the line to gain. They call it a first down. Man, Jay, I'm positioned like right at the yard line where that line to gain was. And if he got it, it was just, he barely got it, is what I'm getting at. So 1st and 10 for the Bulldogs at the 46-yard line of St. Paul's.
Bulldogs 0-2. They lost the first week to Westover 12-9, and they lost to Lee County last week 42-14. Lee County's a good team, and that score, though, is a little deceiving because it was 21-14 at the half.
1st and 10 for the Bulldogs at their own 46-yard line. Handoff up the middle. The back, number 2, Quintel McNeil, dancing around. Drop close to midfield. They mark him down at the St. Paul's 49. We'll call it a gain of 3 yards, and it'll set up a 2nd and 7. Sorry, partner.
No, Sam, 2 and 3 for St. Paul's. McNeil, McMillan. Wow, they do not look real big, do they?
They do not.
Yeah.
They do not. Meanwhile, Setzer, the quarterback, is a nice-sized kid.
Yeah.
Or at least height-wise. Man in motion, a little pop pass to the man. He's got a seam down the left side. Oh, he makes one man miss. Still on his feet. Jay still up. Finally dropped at about the 37-yard line. A gain of 14 yards. That was Malachi Locklear.
Yeah.
Jay is a freshman.
A 9th grader. Yeah.
Freshman running the ball like that. Wow.
They got a kid they list, 65, pretty good size, offensive tackle, as a freshman that's starting. So a lot of young players on the field for St. Paul's.
False start over there by the left tackle. And just for Dr. Mike, not going to say his name, checking in with Chief Ace sideline reporter, Dr. Mike Maurer. Dr. Mike, what do you see down there so far in the early going?
So far, the strengths for South's defense obviously are their interior linemen as well as linebackers. Obviously, with the loss of early, we're going to have to see how they kind of fill that gap because it's a huge gap to fill. But so far, they're doing pretty well. St. Paul's offensive line actually looks pretty athletic. They're not overly large, but they're moving pretty well.
So 1st and 15 for St. Paul's. That's behind the line of scrimmage. Another flag, another false start. And that's going to set up a 1st and 20 for the Bulldogs. So, Jay, after getting a big gain from number 21, Locklear, on the pass from Setzer, the Bulldogs are going backwards.
Yeah, and I misstated something with Setzer. 12 for 24 last week, 181 yards through the air, including a 77-yard touchdown.
So 1st and 20, ball's at the 47. Little option pitch out to the right side. Still holding on to him. He's going to just have to try to get back to the line of scrimmage, but he has dropped for a loss of 2 yards. That pitch was to number 2, Quintel McNeil. A good play over here on the home sideline. And, Jay, the Bulldogs suddenly faced with a 2nd and 22.
And that was number 20, Terrapin Chanamum, who just had a hold of the shirt and hung on until he got some help from his friends. But good effort by Chanamum that time. Outside linebacker, junior. Total tackles on the year, 6. Total tackles, Jack Early, the kid we talked about, injured. He's going to finish his season with 32 total tackles, 13 solo, a couple for tackles for a loss. He's still among the leaders in the state in tackles, even though he missed half of last week's game.
So St. Paul's calls for a timeout as the Bulldogs were on the verge of picking up a delay of game penalty. The first charged timeout to St. Paul's. The Bulldogs have 2 remaining. South Brunswick has all 3 of its first half timeouts remaining. So Jay, a pretty positive start to the drive for St. Paul's, but they're going to have to come up with something big here to convert this 2nd and 22 and keep this possession alive.
Yeah, not a particularly good down and distance situation, is it, Sam? We're taking a look at the South Brunswick kids as they break their huddle. 1-1 on the season, defeated Richlands the first week, lost that 48-44 heartbreaker to South Columbus last week. So they've scored points, averaging 41 a game. They've given up 38 a game, and it's this defense that's on the field right now that's got to show up bigger this week.
Pass across the middle. It's caught. Receiver still on his feet. It's number 10, Joshua McBride, and he is in. A 49-yard touchdown strike from Theo Setzer to McBride, the sophomore, and the Bulldogs in business early. With 8:03 left in the opening quarter, the St. Paul's Bulldogs have taken a 6-0 lead, and Jay, that throw just beat the safety who was coming over to make a play on him. McBride made the catch and did the rest.
He sure did. Looks like McBride's got some jets and ran away from the South defenders. 28 in to kick the extra point.
Snap good, hold good, kick is up, kick is good. 28, Omar Canuto. Jay, look at that throw into that tight window.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, that didn't have a lot of room, but put the ball exactly where it needed to be, and McBride does the rest. So nice opening drive for the visitors from St. Paul, 7-zip, and a not-so-nice opening possession for the South Brunswick defense.
Yeah, Jay, so if we're going back to last week, that's 43 unanswered. The South Brunswick has not scored a point since late in the third quarter of the South Columbus game, and the defense has allowed 43 points. So we're going to see if South Brunswick senior quarterback Jamison Prince can get that South Brunswick offense rolling. Dr. Maurer made a great point during our pregame discussions. The South Brunswick offense played what, Jay? About 5 to 7 total plays in the second half last week, and that was it.
Not a lot. They just couldn't. The defense couldn't get South Columbus off the field, and when they did, they turned it over twice on kickoffs.
Boy, Canuto's got a big leg. Jordan Davis fields the kick, looking for some running room, and he is dropped at about the 17-yard line.
That's one of them little guys. That's McMillan.
Yep, I was about to say, Jay, there's the guy you mentioned, Jameer McMillan, down there to make the tackle. Certainly those hot pink gloves helped him in that endeavor.
Well, this is an important drive for South Brunswick, as you said.
It feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know, still kind of left over from last week, so I think it's real important for Jamison Prince and company to respond right back and get the Cougs in this game.
So 1st and 10, ball at the 17-yard line of the Cougs. That's Mark Bishop in motion. Ethan Overton flanking Prince in the backfield. 3 receivers to the top, 1 to the bottom. Prince sprints out right. He's got a man wide open. That's Bishop. He is dropped at the 25-yard line. A pickup of 8 yards will set up a 2nd and 2. And, Jay, as you just so eloquently stated, it just feels like for South Brunswick, the fans, the coaches, the players, everyone involved in the program, they just need something good to happen.
They do.
After last week's collapse and the rough start tonight.
Yeah, and it does not have to be a big play, so to say, but wow, if it could be a long run, a long TD pass, something like that to kind of get everything more excited about South Columbus right now would be really, really helpful.
Yeah. The Cougars of South Brunswick need to see something positive happen, and what better place to start than with Jamison Prince in this offense. And there's Ethan Overton making a good run, really close to the line to gain, and they're going to signal first down. It is 2 yards on the carry and a first down for Overton and the Cougs. Ball out to the 27-yard line where it'll be a 1st and 10 for South.
17, Jamarcus Smith, senior outside linebacker with the stop for St. Paul's. So they got the first down, Sam, under their belt now, and they're, can breathe a little easier.
Prince and company, 1st and 10. South picks up the blitz. Now Prince is flushed out of the pocket. He stops and throws a bullet to number 5, Stephen Callahan, but off his fingertips and out of bounds. Jay, worth mentioning, I do believe, St. Paul's 0-2 to start this year. They played 2 tough opponents, Westover and Lee County. But this is a program that has had a great deal of success in recent memory. In the COVID spring season, played for a state championship. St. Paul's lost to Salisbury, and then the year after that, made it to the 4th round.
Well, they got some winning tradition, particularly of late. And last year, they weren't terrible. They were 6-4 overall. Lost, I think, in the early rounds of the state playoff.
Yeah, I think lost to Green Central maybe in the 1st round last year. Play clock winding down. They're going to give it to Overton. Look at him go. Man, he is good. He is so – Jay, you just don't think a kid of his size will be so good between the tackles, but he is tough to tackle.
Well, he's down low to the ground, right? And he's strong, and he's got those spurts, right? You just kind of – give a little bit of room, and he can kind of squirt through there real quick. So nice effort by Ethan on that run. Again, South needed that.
So 1st and 10 for the Cougs at their own 41-yard line. Empty set. Prince down the middle of the field, intended for Overton, and it's just out of the or just over the outstretched arms of Overton and incomplete.
Yeah, I don't know how Ethan's tall, 5'5", 5'6". Maybe if he's 6 feet, he makes that catch. I don't know, but he was wide open. Maybe something that South Brunswick wants to come back to it later in the game.
Second and 10. Ball at the South 41-yard line, almost midway through the opening period. Prince drops back again. This time it's a flare pass out to the right. Overton makes one man miss, still on his feet inside the 45, and then shoved out of bounds. So add 15 to that. So, Jay, when it's said and done here, that's going to be a 34-yard pickup, 19 on the throw and catch, 15 more on the late hit.
Yeah, that's a mistake on the part of the Bulldogs for sure. They limited it to 19 yards, but now it's, another 15 because of the unsportsmanlike call on the sideline. So Jameson been fairly accurate here early on. Missed the Overton over the middle, but everything else has been catchable.
1st and 10, ball is at the 25-yard line of the Bulldogs. Wide receiver screen down to Davis. Oh, a nice play down there by number 1. Ja'Kai Purcell, partner, a sophomore defensive back, was fighting off a block over there from a South Brunswick receiver. Shed the block, came off to make the tackle. That was a beautiful play, and Dr. Mike was right on top of that down there at about the 25-yard line.
Yeah, I got nothing else to add. You called that perfectly. He shed it amazingly and made the tackle for a loss.
So 2nd and 11 for the Cougars. Ball is at the 26-yard line. Prince in the shotgun, looking for a man over the middle. He's got Jordan Davis, receiver still on his feet, brought down at about the 4-yard line, a gain of 22 yards and a South Brunswick first down.
Again, another nice delivery by Prince and Jordan Davis. That would be catch number 12 on the year for the 6'4" senior, 274 yards and 3 scores. So nice pitch and catch that time between the seniors, Prince and Jordan Davis.
And a couple of the big guys coming in for South Brunswick. Bennett Ballantyne, part-time tight end, and 42. Brennan Kelly checking the game. No wide receivers. Prince fakes the handoff, rolled out to his right. He was going to be looking for Aiden Tubman there in the back of the end zone. Instead, it's a false start penalty against South Brunswick, and now it'll be 1st and goal from the St. Paul's 9.
Sam, if South wants to run in the middle of that line, they got a big guy up there at the nose guard position for St. Paul's, number 77, Jonathan Powell. Don't have his weight, but look at that girth right there in the cross from Caleb and 73. Brower, who are big guys on their own, but they're dwarfed by 77.
So 1st and goal from the 9. Overton's got it. He's brought down at the 5-yard line, picks up 4. That'll set up a 2nd and goal from the 5. 4:10 left in the opening frame. St. Paul's leads South Brunswick 7-0 in the early going.
That's a play, Sam, where I predict sometime this evening Prince is going to pull that ball back out of Overton's belly and keep it. Prince, a very fine rusher on his own, averaging nearly 10 yards per rush and 4 scores this season.
They're going to pass it this time.
That's
Overton
6.
got lost out of the backfield. Wide open for a South Brunswick touchdown. 5 yards from Jamison Prince to Ethan Overton, and South Brunswick strikes back. 3:42 left in the first. South Brunswick an extra point away from tying this game.
Well, that catch and to Overton, by Overton, and then the 15-yard penalty, the big play on that drive, 21 into kick, Colin Petey, who did really well last week.
Flag on the play. Offside against St. Paul's. Yeah, Jay, I think in high school football that it's dead on the offside, so you can't decline it and take the made extra point. So South Brunswick will have to kick this again.
Well, Petey, sophomore, is 10 for 11 with point afters, has a field goal from 27 yards this year.
Kick is up, and the kick is good. So Petey 2 for 2 on those point after tries, and Jay Overton just gets completely lost out of the backfield.
A defensive breakdown that time. The South Brunswick receivers were crossing over the middle, and Overton just snuck right out of the backfield. Nobody picked him up. Easy play for Prince and Overton, and a 7-7 tie.
So, Jay, we're coming off a FOCUS Broadband game of the week that was 48-44. So far tonight, 2 possessions, 2 touchdowns. Yeah. We're in for another shootout, are we?
Well, maybe. Listen, and credit to to both teams, of course. St. Paul's with the nice drive to open the game, but South a little back on their heels and methodically marched back down the field to tie this game. So, yeah, maybe a preview of things to come.
Jay, that was an 84-yard drive from the Cougars.
And mostly Prince through the air with a couple of nice runs by Overton.
Purcell runs it out across the 40-yard line, dropped at the 42. Pretty good return there by Mr. Purcell.
Yeah, he's the defensive back that made the great play earlier on. So, yeah, they got a lot of maybe not real big in every situation, although Purcell listed at 5'10". Don't know his weight, but got some athletes out there for Mike Setzer's St. Paul's Bulldogs.
1st and 10 at the 42. Setzer gets the handoff. It's going to bounce around the left side. He's got a crease, Jay. He's got a crease. He is gone. No flags on the field.
Holy
58
moly.
yards from number 2.
Now there is a flag.
Oh, there is a flag down at the 46-yard line. So not so fast, Quintel McNeil. Oh, it is a holding penalty against the Bulldogs, and that's going to set up, Jay, the all too common 1st and 8, I believe, here, once they mark off the 10-yard penalty.
Well, what a break for South Brunswick, right? Because McNeil, nobody touched him at the line of scrimmage, and then it becomes a foot race, and looks like he can more than hold his own with anybody out there.
Man, he can go.
Yeah.
Man, not every game you see a 1st and 8.
And not every game, how you could calculate that quick is amazing. The great Sam Hickman.
So 1st and 8 for the Bulldogs at the 44-yard line. They're going to throw a wide receiver screen this time. Another athlete out in space runs through one tackle, but a sure tackle by Bennett Ballantyne over there. And Jay, a decent little play on 1st and 8, picked up 4 yards, and that will set up a 2nd and 4. Ball is at the St. Paul's 48.
Yeah,
they need the 48 of South Brunswick for a
Sam,
first down.
it looks a little like, we talk about this all the time. Find out who your quote-unquote players are, right, and get the ball to them in places on the field where they can do something. And so far, that's what St. Paul's been able to do.
Setzer keeps it around the left side. Now he reverses course. And, Jay, this is going to end up a bad loss and a block in the back. Boy, if Setzer would have just kept going around the left side, Jay was at the very least going to pick up 2 or 3 yards and make it a 3rd and manageable. Instead, it's going to be
I think Quentin McNeil got
boy, and then another flag.
Well, we'll see. Let him.
Another flag flew in late.
Yeah, the initial flag was McNeil on a clip, I think, or a block behind the back.
And I think they got Seth Pierce for something.
Okay, so
22 had his palms up after the flag was thrown. So we'll see. So, Jay, one of those is a live ball penalty. I believe we're going to have a block in the back against St. Paul's. That's marked off. And then we're going to go 15 the other way against South Brunswick. Let's see. Then we have a dead ball. Personal foul against South Brunswick. So they're going to mark it back to the 33. And then they're going to go 15 more. We're going to end up in the exact same spot that we were just in with a 2nd and 4 from the 48-yard line. Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what. You folks at home watching, you've got about as clear a picture as I've seen in a long time. Sam, great description, but beautiful, beautiful night here.
Boy, and, I'll tell you what Idell did. It brought in some nice weekend weather, didn't it?
Yeah. Brought us a camera guy that's joining us for the first time this season.
Jarrett Wentz.
And doing one heck of a job.
Shout out Jarrett Wentz and the UNCW comm team.
Be working Panther games next, I'm sure.
Pass down the middle. It's Locklear. It's Colt. He's inside the 20. Dropped at the 18. A gain of 34 yards, and the Bulldogs are in business. Jay, let me tell you, Malachi Locklear, this freshman, football player. Football player.
Just he's a junior. He passed for 132 yards last year. He came into the night with 181 over the first 2 games. And it looks like he can kind of throw it around, Sam.
Yeah, he's certainly done a fine job of it so far tonight. So St. Paul's in the shotgun, handoff up the middle. That was number 2, Quintel McNeil, for a decent gain to about the 13-yard line. Gain of about 4 yards will set up a 2nd and 6.
Mike, it looks like that St. Paul's offensive line is kind of having their way with the Cougars.
Well, actually, I think what's interesting is I think South Columbus really just opened the playbook for everybody on film to see how you beat South Brunswick, because they're running very similar schemes to what South Columbus was able to do in the second half last week.
That pass was intended for Jameer McMillan, and it falls to the turf incomplete. Little high on that throw from Theo Setzer.
Yeah, but the pass, he was open.
He was
He was open, and that's something that Setzer probably not going to miss too many times, at least from the early goings here this evening, his ability to throw.
So 3rd and 6. Ball is at the 13-yard line. St. Paul's needs the 7 for a first down. Setzer drops back. Off the hands of the intended receiver, number 9, Tykeem Oxendine. And Jay hit him right in the face mask, I think. Threw his hands off the face mask and incomplete.
Yeah, Cooper Creel was right there with him, the junior defensive back. So may have had something to do with the pass not being completed. 4th down, I guess St. Paul's is going to go for it.
Yeah, going to leave the offense on the field. 4th and 6. Ball's at the 13. Setzer's got the snap, and it is blown dead. We're going to have a false start against St. Paul's. That's going to turn this 4th and 6 into a 4th and 11, and now they're going to bring on the field goal team, it appears, including place kicker number 28, Omar Canuto. Jay, based on watching him in pregame and his first extra point, he's got more than enough leg. Let's see. Ball's at the 18. It'll be a 35-yard attempt from Canuto.
Only a 10th grader. Lefty.
Was a good snap. The hold is down. The kick is up. And now we're going to go back 5 yards the other way with the offside penalty. So now do you bring your offense back?
Well,
to the field?
See, I don't, Sam, I don't like this. I'll tell you why. Because it's almost like penalizing the offense. And they are going to bring their offense back in.
Yeah, like if you nail the kick, you want to leave the points on the board.
I want the points. Okay, forget the penalty.
But
and same thing with the extra
In
point
high
down
school,
here.
it's a dead ball.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one, partner. And, man, Canuto looked like he crushed that.
Crushed it, yeah. You don't want a penalty to give the other team an advantage.
So Jay now Setzer under center here on this 4th and 6. And he boots out to the right. He's got a man over there. It's caught. Was he inbounds? Yes, he was. Enough for the first down yardage. A great catch over there by number 3, Jameer McMillan, and that will set up a 1st and goal. Boy, Jay, I love that play call.
Yeah.
Love that play call. Getting him under center, boots out to the right, so you get Setzer, a good athlete, out in space, and now you got a 1st and goal at the 2.
Yeah, he's a good-looking quarterback, right? Not a lot of big numbers behind him, but, he looks like he can play.
Setzer under center, give up the middle. That is number 10, Joshua McBride, who rushes in from 2 yards out. McBride's 2nd touchdown of the night with 1:24 left in the first quarter. The Bulldogs of St. Paul's have taken a 13-7 lead over the Cougars on your FOCUS Broadband game of the week.
Well, let me tell you, and pretty good-sized hole opened up that time for McBride. He took advantage of it off the left side.
Canuto's extra point attempt is up and good, so the St. Paul's lead is 14-7, so 3 possessions in this game, 3 touchdowns.
Let's watch it again. Off the left side, just some good blocking there, and look at all the blue shirts kind of away from the ball. Not a lot of good attacking on the ball that time.
Dr. Mike, sideline reporter extraordinaire, your early impressions.
Early impressions so far, like I said, I think South Columbus gave everybody the playbook on how to kind of attack South Brunswick's defense. Unfortunately, normally that's later in the year, but because I think they just had so much tape, it's kind of allowed St. Paul's to kind of start cherry picking through where they're putting the ball. South Columbus here, or South Brunswick, I did really well last week. I'm not doing great this week. South Brunswick needs to do what they did on the first drive and really just sustain kind of a churning drive. I think last week what really did them in kind of was that quick early touchdowns because their defense never really got a break. So if they can get another 84-yard drive for a touchdown, they're still in the game, gives the defense a lot of time to rest.
I mean, maybe a special teams play here, Sam. Something. They just kind of going through the motions.
High end over end kick. Oh,
Ooh.
man, a nice open field tackle. That was one. Again, Jacob Purcell making plays all over the football field. This one's for Jay and Dr. Mike. Jay first. The loss of Jack Early. You know, a great linebacker in the middle of that defense holding everything together. Since he's been out, South Brunswick has allowed 7 consecutive touchdown possessions spanning the South Columbus and St. Paul's games. Can the loss of one player make that much of a difference?
Well, you wouldn't think so, but it's apparent that there's some connection, at least with the Cougars here early on. The absence of Early, defensively, they have just not recovered.
And I would agree with that. Part of it is just there's a reason he was the starter as a junior, right? And there's a reason he was leading the state in tackles, and that's because he was probably making his keys, reading his keys, getting to tackles, swarming the ball. And so any kind of loss like that, particularly in the center of the field, both on run coverage as well as pass coverage, is really going to be a detriment.
It would be no different than us, Jay. We lose a guy like Dr. Mike, and we'd be in shambles.
Yeah, well said, Mike, and particularly Early's ability to cover the entire field. He can chase you down.
Oh, he's got – I thought he had Jordan Davis over the middle of the field. He elected the wheel route to Bishop, and it falls incomplete. And, Jay, this is kind of what Mike was talking about. You run a play, then throw an incomplete pass, and the next thing you know, you're facing a 3rd and 9. If you don't convert, your defense could end up right back on the field.
Yeah, which was, one of the problems that they had last week in that shootout with South Columbus, as Mike very expertly described. Those kids were gassed in the second half, those kids being the defensive team for South Brunswick. No need to panic, though, right? Plenty of time. Here we're still in the first quarter.
Late in the first quarter, Prince down the seam. Oh, man! A really nice play by number 4, Christopher McCallum, who was one of the captains. Got his hand up there. It was seemingly the last minute. Deflected it into the air, almost came up with an interception. Instead, it's an incomplete pass, and it will force the South Brunswick coaching staff to bring on the punt team.
I think, was that Bishop the intended receiver that time? Number 12?
12, yep.
Yeah. So St. Paul's maybe going to be the one with the special teams play here.
Oh, good South Brunswick bounce. What was that line of scrimmage, Jay? The 23, and it's all the way to the 29. So 21 and another 27 is 48 yards. So 48-yard punt, no return, and with 25.2 seconds left in the first quarter, Jay, we just saw our first defensive stop of the night.
Yeah.
It was the St. Paul's defense who forced the South Brunswick punt.
Yeah, and then they, not the way it was drawn up, but a very good punt by South to kind of change the field a little bit.
Oh, look at that crease. Man, that was some good blocking up front. Big old hole in the interior of that South Brunswick defensive line, Jay. That was an 8-yard gain. Now, that will set up a 2nd and 2. Was that the final play of the first quarter?
I tell you what, these kids for St. Paul's hit the hole quick.
I believe that is going to be the final play of the first quarter. When we come back, South Brunswick will try to stop St. Paul's on a 2nd and 2 from the 36-yard line after 12 minutes of game action on the FOCUS Broadband TV Game of the Week. It's St. Paul's 14, South Brunswick 7. And we're back for the start of the second quarter here on the FOCUS Broadband TV Game of the Week. St. Paul's leading South Brunswick 14-7. The Bulldogs facing a second and 2 from their own 36. There's a first down and then some. Ball carrier still on his feet out across the 45. Brought down at the 49, a gain of 13 yards and a St. Paul's first down. How about that run by the sophomore, Mr. McBride?
Yeah, McBride having a great first half here this evening, and the Cougars, wow, they just look a little lost defensively.
Oh, there's a crease around the left side. Boy, McBride is good. He is good. Jay, there's a lot of young talent on this St. Paul's roster.
10th grader, Purcell, 10th grader.
McBride, Locklear, freshman.
Yeah.
Setzer, the quarterback's just a junior if I'm not mistaken. And then McNeil's a junior running back. McMillan is a senior. Wide receiver screen. Speaking of Locklear, he makes one man miss. And then some sure tackling out there, including number 9, Brantley Baker, who's made a lot of plays for this South Brunswick defense the last couple of seasons. Brought down McBride there, but it was a gain of about 10 yards and another St. Paul's first down.
Yeah, Baker, 8 total tackles coming into this evening's game, and the only interception that South has been able to get thus far this year. They have not done a great job of forcing turnovers, something they could really use right here.
Running back still on his feet. Man, he's quick. That's Quintel McNeil, the junior running back. And Jay, I tell you, this, again, I'm beating a dead horse here, but they got some weapons. They got some skill kids.
Don't look like an 0-2 team, do they?
No.
But to your point, Sam, you said the two teams
played
that
2 tough teams.
Yeah, they face some competition, and
I mean, Westover, they played in week 1, has twice the amount of students that St. Paul's has, and Lee County not far from it. They're a big school.
Yeah, and only lost 12-9 to Westover.
2nd and 4, ball at the 32-yard line. Give right up the middle. The back still on his feet. He was tripped up by number 59 there. I believe that's Miguel Noyola, who brought down the ball carrier, but not before another St. Paul's first down.
Sam, there is literally no penetration on the part of South Brunswick front 7. So the St. Paul's offensive backs are not even getting hit until they like 3 yards
deep. Yep.
Past the line of scrimmage.
Good call, partner. I was about to say it looked like the wide receiver got a head start there, and it is a false start against the Bulldogs of St. Paul's. And, Jay, that's the only thing right now that can stop them. Is penalties, because they're running the ball this drive at will against the Cougar front 7.
Yeah, and as Mike was pointing out, I don't know what they picked up watching that game last week, but they must have picked up some things that they can do, and they've done very well here tonight.
Dr. Maurer, is it reasonable to think that South Brunswick could experience a hangover of some sort after the South Columbus game, or is this about more of a lack of execution, or St. Paul's just executing at a really high level?
It's absolutely possible, but I think they're a well-coached team, so I don't think that would probably bleed into this week too much. St. Paul's, to Jay's point, the offensive line is just a well-oiled unit. They're just watching them work. They're not overly sized, but they're athletic. They're staying low. They're winning the leverage game against South Brunswick at the line of scrimmage for sure.
Procedure penalty against South Brunswick, and Jay, the play on the field just now was almost intercepted, then almost caught. How Locklear even got near it to almost make a play on it, I don't know. But it is going to force St. Paul's into a 1st and 20.
Goes against St. Paul's, rather, not the Cougars. So 5-yard penalty, still first down. 1st and 20 from the 35.
McBride coming onto the field now in the slot to the bottom of your screen. 1st and 20. They throw it out to him on the left side. He makes one man miss. Then he's been up a little awkwardly after a gain of 3, maybe 4 yards. That'll set up a 2nd and 17. We'll give him 3 yards on the completion from Setzer to McBride.
Cooper Creel in on the stop that time. 10 total tackles for the junior before tonight's game, and that was an important one there.
I just want to give a quick shout out. Number 3, you guys have said his name for his ball handling skills today, but he is just tenacious on his blocks. I want to point that out, and if we can get some camera work on it, that would be great.
Jameer McMillan. Oh, Jay, a low snap. Setzer picks it up, runs around the left side. He's just going to have to hop out of bounds around the 33-yard line. So officially a loss of 1, but it could have been a lot worse for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, you know, and credit Setzer that time for not getting too overly panicked or excited with that poor snap. He made sure that he had possession and tried to make as much as he could and, you know, got out of bounds. It's a pretty smart play by Theo Setzer. Limited the damage, the loss. He's got plenty of time. Wow.
3rd and 18. Now he's just going to rifle a pass over to the right side, and that falls incomplete. Man, Jay, how many times have we seen it? Penalties, penalties, penalties. They were just humming right along.
Yeah.
A chance to go down and take a 2-score lead, and then back-to-back false start penalties just thwarted this drive quickly.
Well, he had all day to throw that time, so there must have been some really fine secondary coverage by South Brunswick on that play to see if they can do it again.
4th and 18. Looks like they're going to go for it, partner. Oh, no. They're going to drop Setzer back for the quick kick. It looks like they will. Boy, and it would have been a great one. Jay, that thing just died at the 4-yard line. But another false start penalty. So that's like the 6th false start or 7th false start from St. Paul's in this opening 16 minutes of game action.
And I read some comments from their coach, Mike Setzer, and one of the things he said that they're going to have to cut down was mistakes. He said he doesn't think in the last 2 weeks they played a full 48 minutes of football. So mistakes are plaguing them early here this evening despite having a lead.
This one Setzer puts high in the air. Takes a South Brunswick bounce. Now it's coming all the way back to the 21-yard line. Only nets about 17 yards. So South Brunswick's defense, Jay, for the first time
in a long time,
7 or 8 possessions, comes up with a stop. And Jamison Prince and company will come back on the field with 8:27 left before halftime with a chance to drive down the field 79 yards to tie this ball game.
Well, you know, it took them a while, right? But they got them off the field nevertheless. So that's something that South can try to build on here as this game continues. But now it's up to Prince and company to try to get something going offensively. They obviously can score and move the football. They need to do it here.
Prince going to take off with it, Jay. He's got some running room. Oh, then kind of went backwards a little bit there, shy of the 30. Brought down at the 28. A gain of 7 will set up a 2nd and 3.
I think that was 18 Tyler Parks on the stop that time. But, you know, he had some space until he didn't. And these kids close quick. There must be some good speed and athleticism on this St. Paul's team. By the way, Parks, the kid that made that tackle, was the leading rusher last week, and I don't think he has rushed the ball here tonight. Look at that.
Man,
close. Woo!
He's shy of the first down. Oh, no, they gave him the 31, Aiden Tubman. Okay, so 3 yards on the pitch and catch from Prince to Tubman. It will be enough for a South Brunswick first down. So the chains move for the Cougars.
Chris McCallum on the stop that time for St. Paul's. He's a transfer from Lumberton, and they were hoping that he would provide some defensive help, particularly in the back end. He certainly did that time.
McCallum from his safety spot came up and made the tackle. They're going to throw the screen to the boundary, and Callahan is dropped.
Nothing.
Number 8, Chris Bryant, the senior strong safety. brought him down quickly. Loss of yardage, Jay. Callahan lost a couple yards. That'll set up a 2nd and 12 as the game clock approaches 7 minutes here before halftime.
Tell you what, at least the first quarter and a half, St. Paul's looks like they haven't been surprised by anything that South Brunswick offensively has been able to or tried to do.
Be interested to see South get Overton back involved in the action. He's been quiet, Jay. That's got to be grounding, right?
Anybody around? I don't see a blue shirt.
Yeah, there it goes. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I think so.
Did they throw it eventually?
Yeah.
Because the two receivers on our side were on go routes about the 45-yard line or 40-yard line. The pass was thrown away, but I certainly don't think anyone was in the area.
Looked like big number 17, Jamarcus Smith.
Yeah,
was
guys.
the one that put the pressure.
Tell
us about it, Mike.
His closest receiver was about 20 yards down the field. Good mental decision there by Prince to throw it away. All he's got to do is just chuck it deep to the out-of-bounds line next time.
Yeah. Mike, number 17 for St. Paul's, the linebacker, Jamarcus Smith, who Jay was just talking about. Does he look as good at the field level as he does from up here? I mean, he just really stands out on that St. Paul's defense, physically, I mean.
What I would say is he's got a good frame on him. Probably, I don't know what year he is, but he's a little undersized, but he's quick and he's making great reads.
Chunks it deep down the field, and this one Prince does throw out of bounds. So, Jay, how about the the St. Paul's defense? Prince could never get comfortable on that possession. He was running for his life most of those dropbacks.
Yeah, and look, the offensive line and the defensive line for the Cougars right now are not playing, have not brought their A game, and the Bulldogs are taking advantage of it on both ends. A lot of pressure from the outside that time, forced Prince into the errant throw.
Spiraling punt toward the sideline. A good Cougar bounce. Look at it, Jay, still going. Finally down at the 38-yard line, so 31 and 12 more, a 43-yard punt, no return. Again, in high school football, a net of 43, you'll take that every time.
Every time.
Jay, it looked from where that ball was snapped like St. Paul's might get a field position on South Brunswick's side of the field. Instead, the Bulldogs will have 1st and 10 at their own 38. Not terrible starting field position, but it could have been much worse for the Cougars.
Surely could have been. So a favorable bounce. That's a couple of times tonight that the punter has gotten that bounce.
In a good run. He just got real skinny in between that whole Quintel McNeil from the 38 to the 44-yard line. A gain of 6 yards will set up a 2nd and 4 for the Bulldogs.
Don't you think that the way this is going, South Brunswick needs a turnover? They need to force a turnover, something to turn things around defensively.
So 2nd and 4, the Bulldogs approaching midfield.
Oh.
Pass to a wide receiver out on the right side. He's still on his feet. Tripped up by about the 41-yard line. He's rolled down at the 40. A gain of 16 yards on the pass from Setzer to Ja'Kai Purcell. And Jay Setzer about thrown for as many yards in this first quarter and a half as he had this season coming into tonight.
He's been all over the field with the ball. That time, I don't know who the defender was for South, but it looked like they hesitated. And that hesitation allowed the receiver to catch the ball and then make the move to get by.
Slant pass, Colt across the middle. Receiver still on his feet inside the 20. Dropped down at the 15-yard line, a gain of 25 yards and another Bulldogs first down. And Jay, it just begs the question, how will this South Brunswick defense get a stop?
Where's the pressure? It's non-existent.
Handoff up the middle, and that was a good play. Let me see if I can get some eyeballs here. That was a really nice play. 58 is the defensive lineman who made that play, William Brown. A really nice stop there, limiting St. Paul's to maybe a yard and a half on that carry. Approaching the 4.5-minute mark of the second quarter. St. Paul's 14, South Brunswick 7. Bulldogs have a 2nd and 9. Another false start. And Jay, by my count, that's the 8th false start against St. Paul's, and half of those have been on the receivers. It's the receivers are getting a head start.
Well, they're pretty anxious,
It's
and
odd
I don't blame them.
Your receivers are watching the ball mostly.
Yeah, I think it's the only reason why this score is just a 1-touchdown deficit.
I think you're exactly
those
right.
tiny, teeny mistakes are really catching up to St. Paul's.
South Brunswick wants a timeout with 4:18 left in the first half. St. Paul's facing a 2nd and 14. Ball is at the 19-yard line of the Cougars. And, Jay, last drive, St. Paul's was moving right along until a couple of false start penalties derailed that drive. Had another good drive going right here, and a stop for a short gain on first down, followed by a false start penalty. And here they are behind the chains again, facing a 2nd and 14.
Yeah, that's of course, they've been able to overcome those mistakes for the most part here this evening, but eventually you just can't you can't continue to do that and expect to come out on top. And how many times have we said it over our years together, Sam? Football games generally are lost, not won. That's one of the ways you lose them is by having an excess amount of penalties, and clearly that's what St. Paul's has done here early in this game this evening.
Oh, this time they did bring pressure, but Setzer got away from it. Pass intended for Locklear over there falls incomplete. Good coverage over there by number 2, Jordan Davis, and that will bring up a 3rd and 14. And, man, Jay, if this score after this drive stays at 14-7, Coach Setzer's got to be over there beside himself thinking what this might have been, what this first half could have been for the Bulldogs.
And, of course, Rocky Lewis would be thanking his stars if they can somehow keep them off the board here.
False start
Another
again.
one. Which, is it one in particular, Sam, or? Gosh, I don't know. Mike, are you seeing anything down there which is maybe causing these procedural calls?
Like Sam mentioned, a lot of it's on the wide receivers. I would say it's probably, I think they're a younger team. They're definitely anxious. They're aggressive, which is great. But as an offensive lineman, if the receivers keep getting false starts, I'm getting frustrated. There goes another one that they didn't
It
call.
was 10.
Well said.
10 left early that
There's
time.
some pressure, finally, and he still makes something out of it.
Yeah, Setzer somehow got away from the initial sack.
Yeah, William Brown among several Cougar defenders that time, but at least the last couple of plays, they've been able to put a little pressure on the quarterback.
Boy, St. Paul's has missed a golden opportunity here the last 2 possessions to increase its 7-point lead. And now St. Paul's is going to have to call a timeout as they were a bit disorganized before this 4th down play. It would be a 39-yard field goal attempt from here from Canuto. And, man, these false start penalties, Jay, that's 10 and a half.
Yeah, that's
in a half.
That's not gonna win you a lot of fans and friends in football.
And Jay, if I could add, that's 10 false starts, a holding penalty that nullified a touchdown run, and a late hit personal foul on South Brunswick's initial touchdown drive.
Yeah,
so,
that foul really made what was a 19-yard gain into 34, and subsequently South was able to take advantage of it and score. So yeah, don't forget that one either.
They also had the personal
probably
foul.
getting close to 75 yards, 80 yards and penalties here in the first half.
50 penalty yards and false starts alone. So 4th and 17 here. Setzer rolls out, got a man in the corner, but threw it wide of Locklear. And Jay, I'm afraid for St. Paul's, even if he made that catch on the corner route, he was going to be about 5 yards shy of the line of gain unless he could have made a play with his feet after the catch. But South Brunswick comes up with exactly what it needed, which was a defensive stop. Jay, moments ago, St. Paul's had a 1st and 10 at the 14-yard line. 4 plays and 3 false starts later, South Brunswick offense back on the field with a chance to go down and tie the football game.
Yeah, you can't give away the ball like that, Sam, and give away those opportunities like that and expect to be successful.
Throw out of the backfield to Overton. Driven out of bounds at the 32-yard line, right at the line to gain. I believe he's going to have enough for the first down.
Good way to start the drive. Plenty of time, 3:20. I think South has at least a timeout. And, of course, Prince is a prolific thrower, so – and some capable receivers.
Play action. Prince drops back right into the teeth of the St. Paul's pass rush. And, Jay, the first down call was really interesting because they called something where Prince could get it out of his hands quickly. As soon as they called a more traditional drop back, a slower developing pass, St. Paul's was all over him, brought him down for a loss of 7.
You know, at this point, and good observation, Sam. Yeah, the offensive or the line dominance, clearly St. Paul's. Maybe Prince is, since he's not getting much going up top, maybe start using those legs to make something happen.
2nd and 17, 2.5 minutes left, screen to Overton across the middle of the field, and it falls to the turf incomplete. St. Paul's was all over it anyway. Number 40, Dezion Roberts, the sophomore defensive tackle, was right in the area, had eyes on that screen, and the clock stops. It'll be a 3rd and 17 from the South Brunswick 25-yard line. They need the 42 for a first down.
You know, all 230 pounds of Roberts, as Sam mentioned, only a 10th grader.
They're just going to keep it with Overton on the ground, and a big hit. Number 8 was there for St. Paul's, Mr. Chris Bryant, not the baseball player. The clock continues to run. We're approaching the 2-minute mark, and the South Brunswick punt team will come back onto the field. And Dr. Mauer, here we are again with that South Brunswick defense playing a whole lot of snaps here in a half.
Absolutely, and honestly, you guys have mentioned, and St. Paul's really shooting themselves in the foot the last 2 drives. They get down into the red zone and don't capitalize at all. Really impressed with them as a team, though. They're making mental mistakes with the false starts, but other than that, they're slightly undersized, but they're so well drilled. Everybody's playing, the offensive line's playing as a unit. The quarterback's calm and poised, and the receivers are tenacious both in their routes and their blocking.
I want to know how many high school football teams in North Carolina have a freshman punt returner. I mean, Malachi Locklear just caught that punt like he'd done it a million times.
Sure did.
With tacklers of the coverage team bearing down on him.
He really did.
I mean, he looked like a pro doing that. So 1st and 10, St. Paul's, ball at the 43-yard line. St. Paul's trying to add to its lead.
Oh, no.
Again.
Oh, my word.
11
Sam.
in a half. And it was on a receiver again.
Wow.
Jay, I'm not even sure Coach Setzer knows what's going on. He seems in disbelief over there. Fires it down the left side, and incomplete. A heck of a play on the ball by Zane Simmons, and an equally good job by the freshman Malachi Locklear to go up there and try to make a play on the ball to force an incompletion instead of an interception.
Yeah, that's just 2 guys both going after it. A good battle one-on-one, and a great defensive effort by Simmons that time.
Jay, there have been a handful of times in this first half where I thought Setzer had quite a bit of running room if he just tucked it and took off